Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode. Today we are talking about Ghost's newest album, Impera. It just came out on Friday, March 11th, 2022, pardon me. It was recorded from January 2020 to February of 2021. It was supposed to come out in 2020, but the COVID-19 pandemic pushed it out. What is this album all about? What is Ghost all about? As you can see, I am a big fan of Ghost. I just got this at their most recent tour stop here in Anaheim, California, on the pre-Impera tour, because the Impera tour is coming. Like I said, it was delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. It was very influenced by world events surrounding, 2019, 2020, 2021. The first single was Hunter's Moon off of the Halloween Kills soundtrack. If you sat through all of Halloween Kills and got to the credits, you got to hear it over the credits, which was pretty cool. The release date and Call Me Little Sunshine, the second single, were both announced on January 20th of 2020. And then, of course, the third single, 20s, was released just before the album. And so we have three singles from the album. Not the three songs that I would have picked as the singles for it, but there's a lot of tracks on here that you could pick reasonably to be singles, because this is a very solid album. It takes Ghost from the Black Plague era of Prequelle and into the Victorian sort of Industrial Revolution era. You can tell by the album artwork that there's a lot of themes about industry and sort of automation here. And it's just an utterly fantastic album. If you like Ghost, if you like the music that they play, the sort of heavy metal Blue Oyster Cult sort of arena rock style, you're going to love this album. If you hate Ghost, why are you watching the video? I don't know, but this album is fantastic. Let's go through the track list here. So we've got the opener, which is the instrumental Imperium, which they did open their most recent concert tour with, into the second track, which is Kaisarian, which comes in at 5 minutes and 2 seconds long. Then the third track, Spillways, coming in at 3 minutes and 16 seconds long. Call Me Little Sunshine, which we've all heard, at 4 minutes and 44 seconds long. Hunter's Moon, which we've all heard, at 3 minutes and 16 seconds long. Watcher in the Sky, coming in at 5 minutes and 48 seconds long. Dominion, another instrumental, coming in at 1 minute and 22 seconds long. Twenties, which is the third single, as we said, we all should have heard this by now, coming in at 3 minutes and 46 seconds long. Darkness at the Heart of My Love, coming in at 4 minutes and 48 seconds. Griftwood, coming in at 5 minutes and 16 seconds. Bite of Passage, coming in at 31 seconds long, which is another instrumental leading into the final track of Respite on the Spitalfields, coming in at 6 minutes and 42 seconds long. The album is, for a heavy metal album, it's a little on the shorter side. A lot of the songs are more quicker and poppier. You're not getting your 12-minute Iron Maiden songs here from Ghost. You are getting a more lengthy track to end the album, and to start the album, 5 minutes for that opening track, Kaisarian, is a little bit longer than normally what Ghost does, like with Square Hammer or with Rats in particular from the previous albums. My favorite tracks on the album are Kaisarian, Spillways, Hunter's Moon, Watcher in the Sky, and Respite on the Spitalfields. That isn't to say that the rest of the tracks are bad. Those are just my favorites. I've really enjoyed Hunter's Moon since they released the track, since I got to hear it in Halloween Kills. Kaisarian, I got to hear on the tour. It was a hell of a song live, a great way to open the concert. And then they went straight into Rats, which they normally opened with on their previous tour. Spillways, I got to hear for the first time at their live sort of show that they did on YouTube to promote the album. I believe it was called Live from the Ministry. And it was fantastic. Spillways, I think, might be my favorite track overall on the album. It's a tight track. It's only 3 minutes long. It's got the piano opening. It is the most sort of poppy, classic-sounding track that you can get from Ghost. Sort of like Dance Macabre, except more into, like, sort of synth-poppy-sounding stuff and more like 70s pop. It takes Ghost into this sort of new progression with their music, where you have the first couple albums are very, 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 very heavy and sort of satanic sounding, and these new albums that they have, Prequelle and Impera, sort of lean less onto the satanic themes. Of course, there is the Call Me Little Sunshine, which is all about Satan. So they're not forgetting the people out there that want to hear about Satan in their music, but they're sort of leaning more into this historical aspect, where each of the albums has this theme to it. It's not really a concept album because it's not telling an entire story, but they have very heavy themes. It's very much like Iron Maiden does with their most recent albums, where they have a sort of overarching set of themes, but they're not telling a story unless you sort of see it that way. This, I'm not seeing it that way. It's just some more of the overarching themes and less of a story here. Watcher in the Sky is probably the heaviest track on the album besides maybe 20s, but Watcher in the Sky, really, if you're into that sort of classic Ghost sound, that's the track that you're going to want to listen to. And then Respite on the Spitalfields is sort of this progressive sounding, almost Iron Maiden-ish ending of an album here with the most progressive rock sort of sounding track on the album. And of course, it ends where it begins where it ends. It goes in a loop. So Imperium, the beginning, the guitar opening for that instrumental leads in, it finishes with Respite in the Spitalfields, so you can sort of put this on repeat if you wanted to, and it would go in a perfect circle, which I love. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son by Iron Maiden does that. Really, really awesome to have an album that does that. It's sort of this sort of theme in and of itself where it's a circle, and I know Tobias Forge, Papa Emeritus, has come out and said that, we're repeating our own history and repeating our mistakes that we've made, and it sort of fits into that where it goes in a perfect circle because history does like to repeat itself. There's a lot of influences on this album. There's Blue Oyster Cult, you can definitely hear with the vocals and the guitars. You can hear Whitesnake, especially on the ballad track on the album, Darkness at the Heart of My Love, and sort of throughout you can hear this sort of Whitesnake sounding vibe. And Whitesnake and Ghost, you wouldn't think that David Coverdale and Papa Emeritus or Satan and Is This Love would go together, but I think it really fits to where there's sort of that heavy metalish vibe from Whitesnake, especially with their first couple albums, and then they went a little more commercial with the self-titled album Slip of the Tongue, but there still is that heavy metal undertone there that you can still get to, and it's very much like it with this album and the previous album Prequelle, where you have, it's arena rock, pop rock, pop metal, whatever the hell you want to call it, but there is that heavy metal under the surface. And that leads me to my final point on Ghost, is that Ghost is definitely 100% heavy metal. This is a heavy metal album, and it sounds a lot like their previous material, but it evolves in such a nice way. Their sound overall over the past couple albums has evolved so nicely into this weird place where you have this mainstream band singing about Satan with art like this on their shirts, but people are flocking to go see them in droves. Everyone is going to go see Ghost whenever they come to town. And this album is just absolutely infinitely re-listenable. Even my least favorite track on the album, 20s, I heard it and I was like, this is kind of garbage. I really don't like this. The guitars and everything sound really heavy, but it just sounds kind of silly. That is Ghost's kind of thing. They are silly. But after listening to it a couple of times, it reminds me a lot of Mummy Dust. Mummy Dust is a very silly sounding song when you think about the lyrics on their own. So 20s might be my least favorite track on the album, but that doesn't mean that the album is bad in any way. I would give this album a 96 out of 100. It is just absolutely fantastic to get this album, especially at this time in the year and especially this time in history, where you have sort of this breezy, sort of poppy sounding metal album, but there's just these themes and everything under the surface that you have to dig a little bit deeper to get to. Songs like Kaisarion and Spillways are absolutely fantastic. I openly will admit that I started crying when I heard Spillways for the first time, just because the song is so full of emotion. Kaisarion, same thing. The guitar work, the guitar solos, the guitar licks are all just so happy sounding, and it's so refreshing to hear a heavy metal band with happy sounding music. And that's not to say that the sort of sad, sort of Slayer, sort of angry, vicious, whatever Slayer type stuff isn't good. I love that kind of stuff too, but it's just a nice sort of break to get to a more happy sounding album and a more happy sounding band, even if the lyrics and everything else might not be so happy. Ghost is fantastic. Impera is fantastic. If you are a heavy metal fan or if you're a fan of Ghost, you need to listen to this album. I give it both thumbs up, whatever else you want to get. It's fantastic. Go listen to it. Go buy it on CD or vinyl. They have a million different editions. You can get it on cassette. I love this album. I'm going to be listening to this one for a long time to come. Ghost is a fantastic band. If you get a chance to see them live, go do it. They offer up a fantastic live show. But that'll do it for this review of Impera. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more YouTube content here at my channel. You get more music reviews, movie reviews, horror stuff, video games, whatever else. And I will see you again real soon. Make sure to go listen to Impera by Ghost.